don't know about you, but I'm really green, very naive. I suppose being born in a country as small as the one I was born in, New Zealand, and growing up in a very, very, I was going to say backward. It wasn't backward as much as we've always seemed to be about 20 years behind the rest of the world. We're starting to catch up though now with the internet. But for myself, because of the age I am, and I have done some traveling, I haven't really um, had the experience of really getting to know other countries, other cultures, and how they operate. So, like I said, I'm fairly naive. Now, recently I was watching a YouTube channel, and I'll get the name right. It's called The Little Old Lady Who Could and Did and Does. The algorithms decided that her video might be of interest, and it certainly was. To be honest, it was a French Connection HCB that she was interviewed on that led me to her channel. Now, this lady I found so inspiring. Um, she, at 75, I think it was, she might have left earlier than that. I think she's been in France a couple of years now. But do check her out because honestly, she's really interesting. But the point is, she was a widow and limited funds, and she, bless her, uprooted and went from Idaho to France in a little village, bought an old rundown cottage, and in the process of doing it up. And she has health issues as well. I don't mean to laugh at the health issues, but I mean, I just thought you are brave. And of course, she says she's not brave. And I can relate to that because people said that I was brave moving into this camper. But it's something that you do because of a need or a desire or a passion. And she has a passion for living in France. But what I found intriguing about the whole situation is that I didn't think it was possible that I could just buy a house in any country in the world and just move over there. It just never occurred to me. I thought there'd be so much red tape and it would cost, millions of dollars, which I don't have, to do it. But she's proven to me that she bought her house for 23,000 euros in France. It had a good roof, a huge garden, and needs a lot of work, of course. But had a small checklist of things she wanted that she had to have, and this house fitted the bill. And she's really happy. So it got me thinking, you start going down a rabbit hole because you think, wow, I never realized you could do that. And so then you start thinking about other options that there might be out there that you just have never been introduced to. And that's what's wonderful about the internet, is that you discover things that you have never heard of. So you're always learning something. So it got me thinking about it. I mean, that is something that I would dearly love to do. I think nothing scares me about doing it, but I think it's family. That is the biggest stumbling block, because in New Zealand, between here and France, it's completely the opposite side of the world. And you can't just, hop on a bus, toddle off. I know you have FaceTime and all that sort of things. You can talk nowadays. I mean, when my ancestors arrived here by ship 100 years ago, the ability to get in contact with their family in Ireland was very, very, it was a really long time before you got a letter. I know one of my ancestors was supposed to have claimed an inheritance, and he refused to get back on the boat because it must have been an arduous, and they were long, horrible trips, several months, leaving Liverpool, I think they went from, and arriving in Auckland in New Zealand. And I can imagine he didn't want to step foot on that boat again. So that got me thinking a little bit further. There is a stumbling block as far as my family, and it would be for you, I guess, as well. But it led me down to another little side track where you can do house sitting, um, going to different countries, and I think you're allowed to stay nine. Well, I know from New Zealand, I'm allowed to go any other country for 90 days, and house sit, pet sit, do that kind of thing. And I thought, well, yeah, that's okay because it's not permanent; it's only short term, and it just it just appeals to me the fact that you can travel, but you get to know the area. You can go for hikes, you can go for little trips and excursions about to get to know the place. Because I find that with a tour of as such, you are on a kind of tourist route and you don't get to see or meet the real people and the way the community operates. Whereas the house sitting idea appealed to me. But I haven't discounted also normal travel, if you can call it normal travel, um, because there are certainly things I would like to do and countries I'd like to visit before I am um, in a position where I can't travel, put it that way. And so the normal routes are still open to me. I've been looking also at solo woman travel, where you can go on a group trek as far as whatever your destination is. The travel company puts you in with a group of people. Sometimes it's just women, or depends, I guess. I haven't investigated in it that thoroughly. I'm still just looking at my what's the word? Looking at the things that are available to me. And another thing is, which I'd forgotten about because I remember my cousin and her family came from Australia back to New Zealand on a freight ship or a cargo ship. And I think the whole family, because it was a large family, took up all the passenger accommodation that was available on the freighter. And they brought, I don't know if they brought a car, but I know you can bring vehicles and that and all their worldly possessions. And so I thought, that's another option that, I'm trying to think outside the box and just look at what opportunities there might be out there for me and you as well. If you were thinking like me that you'd like to do something that would be, exciting, an adventure. So, yeah, there's the freighters to consider, which I hadn't done. So I will investigate that. I'm not sure on the destinations. You may be limited to where you can go on the freighters. So that's an opportunity, yeah. Some of the far out options that probably aren't right for me, but I'm just going to throw them out there because it might be something you would be interested in, is like artist and writers residencies where you can go and if you're given the opportunity, you can travel to, like, say, the countryside in Japan or somewhere in Italy, a little village in Italy, to continue your writing or your art or your creativity of whatever it is that you're doing. And I mean, those are sort of things that I wished I'd known about when I was a lot younger. I think this is the trouble, that we live in wherever we live, we're confined to the information that's in the area we choose to live in. And some people get opportunities because they're mixing with people who have done it. And I've lived a fairly sheltered life, I can tell you, in comparison. And so it's only since looking online that I've discovered that there's these other options. And the other thing was university courses. I know that, and I don't know about New Zealand, but again, it's something that I'm going to look into, is that universities offer, they're either free or reduced rates to seniors for studying. So, that's an opportunity for those that, would like to further their education. And there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't matter how old you are. You still, you should, be respected for having that desire, because I think it's great. Other opportunities, I suppose locally in your own country or overseas, you can buy little not villages, little farms, and have like a little eco farm where you're growing bits and pieces, and you can invite travellers to stay on the property and help you nurture that. There's also international, what do they call, living projects, where it's like back in my day in the 60s they were called communes, I think, and I haven't looked into it again, but I think there's those available as well, where you may be welcomed into a community like that, because as you're older you have a lot of experience and can share those experiences with others, especially if you're a creative person as well. That could be very well received. And of course, there's something like what was the movie called? The Marigold Hotel, was it? I don't know if you've seen it, where all the oldies went over to India and stayed in this hotel and more or less took it over as a retirement village. So yeah, I guess there's always that. So if I could get a handful of people interested in perhaps moving somewhere interesting, we could do that. But that's just pie in the sky. I'm just enjoying myself. It's been miserable weather, and I've been looking at some of these options, and they've inspired me, because I just didn't think they were possible. And you know, it's what it's like when someone tells you something new, something different, and it gives you that food for thought. So I'm having just a little daydream and thinking about some of my opportunities, the way I could optimize my retirement. That's what I like to think of it as. I'm optimizing things. So who knows where this will lead, or if it'll lead anywhere. But anyway, it was lovely to see you again, and I hope you join me next time. So until then, have a lovely week, and bless you all. Bye-bye. Life is full of surprises. Look what I found today, growing in winter time. The most beautiful yellow iris. And it's got a couple of buds on it as well, look. Isn't that gorgeous? What a surprise. Ah, lovely.